with you right here. It is Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. The NFL postseason begins in just a few hours. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. We've already been able to break down today's two games. We'll dive into them a little bit more throughout our show, but want to take the second to look at the coaching carousel. We have right now 6 jobs that are open. Maybe another job comes free throughout these playoffs if somebody loses. We've heard rumors around Philly. I have questions. What if Buffalo doesn't meet the level? We can get into that, but we have some concrete things open and available right now. And I want to get to one piece of news that is kind of piling throughout the week, and it's what's going on in Las Vegas, right? Antonio Pierce, press conference, gorgeous starter jacket. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the coach. Oh, no, you're not. All right, that's okay. Well, now it'll be up to Telesco to find a new sorry. Yeah, you're out as well. My current read on the Las Vegas Raiders, Donnie, is the man in charge is Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I am curious if that is your read and then what that would mean for their offseason.
That is a read for me. And also, Tom Brady does have influence around the NFL where, he can talk to coaches, he can talk to guys that you might want to come in as an offensive coordinator and players themselves and say, I'm going to get this right. The one thing that we do know is Mark Davis is a terrible owner, no question about it. Simple fact is, he makes the moves, and you see all the coaches that they have, the television general managers I talk about, nothing has worked for them since they left, Oakland at this point. And quite frankly, while they were in Oakland, they were abysmal as well. But for me, I actually think it's a good thing because doors I don't think would be open for opportunities for coaches to come in and say, you know what, I think this organization is going to turn around. Because, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong on this. It's a great job to have. You're living in Vegas, around, a lively atmosphere and, the art, the black and the silver. It's great stuff. But when you look around that division, that's the worst job to take if you're a coach going like, I wonder if I can make this my 5 or 10-year home. You're going up against Patrick Mahomes, Nick Snout, and Peyton look like they got it going, and then Harbaugh and Herbert out there.
I don't think it's a bad thing that Tom Brady is making the calls.
Yeah,
He's a winner. It's a third party that's out of the day-to-day per se. And to Donnie's point, they have not made the right decisions, right? They thought they had the savior with John Gruden, the off-the-field situations. Obviously, put that, into disarray. And since then, they've been searching for answers. There's, I want to say, a small foundation of young talent there with Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. But outside of that, you need a quarterback, right? You need somebody that could elevate and have an eye for free agent and draft pick type of talent. And I think that's good that Brady is, hands-on. He's close to the Michigan program. He's still involved in a lot of, training, and he does get to talk to a lot of people. And again, you want that perspective to say, this is what we're doing right. This is what we're doing wrong, because Mark Davis hasn't done a good job as an owner. He's only cared about the buck and moving the team, and outside of that, he could care less, I believe, about wins or losses until now.
I think what's interesting with Brady, and we've seen reports from Ian Rappaport, of NFL Network, Diane Rossini over at The Athletic, essentially Tom Brady is solely responsible for Ben Johnson even taking an interview with the Vegas Raiders.
Right.
And if that then goes as far as they got Ben Johnson because of Tom Brady, that is amazing. But Tom Brady is also not, I don't think, at the moment at least, equipped to be their general manager. I mean, Tom Brady doesn't know the funds. He's not going to call Howie Roseman and look to execute a trade. So they're still, I think Tom Brady being kind of the trump card, right, when you're trying to sell someone on what your organization has is great. But they still need to get the right people in place to make the right decisions. What I do think is very interesting and where I feel Tom's influence might be greatest is the quarterback position. They presently have the 6th pick. It's smokescreen season already. I don't know if there's any good quarterbacks. There might be 7 good quarterbacks. I saw a mock yesterday. Apparently Jackson Dart's going in the top 10 out of nowhere. People love what he did against Duke. I don't know. I can't figure this stuff. At 6, the one thing I do believe fully is that Tom Brady would draft Shedeur Sanders. There's an off-field relationship there. I think there would be interest. I could be wrong. Do they have to trade up for that? Is Shedeur a faller? Or is there a world where Dion, who has now even gone as far as to say something that I've been saying on this desk for a while, the only way I go to the NFL is if I can coach my sons. That's what he said. Admittedly, I don't know if the plural in that is Travis Hunter or Shiloh, because we know it means Shedeur Sanders, quite frankly, Donnie. But I want to, hit this one more time until we maybe get a resolution. What do you make of the potential of a team joining Deion and Shedeur at the NFL level?
I don't like it. I just don't. I think sometimes he's coached him his entire life, so it makes sense. They're comfortable together. But when you're in the professional ranks, it's much different than college. I know college kids are getting paid now. It's a little bit different than what it was even 10 years ago. But you cannot have a quarterback with a direct line to the coach like they would have his father and son. Other people will feel slighted on that team. And I'm not even saying, like, the backup quarterback. I'm just saying, like, who's getting the rock at wide receiver? What type of offense are you going to run? Are you going to put your son in the best possible position outside of maybe the other players on your team? I'm not saying it can't work. I just wouldn't like that. And also, if you're an organization who does draft Shedeur Sanders, does that come with an offensive coordinator that sits in the room and Shedeur goes, I don't like this offense at all. I called my dad, talked about it. He thinks I should be in this type of offense. It's a tough sell here. Do I think it could work? Possibly. I just wouldn't look forward to doing it.
It's a rare circumstance. Rare. And, to Donnie's point, when you have guys fighting for paychecks, fighting for jobs, especially if there is, let's just say, a lack of success, it could implode in a heartbeat, more so at the professional level than it could maybe even at the college level. So that's where because the coach is always still looked at the college level, even though they're getting paid as the guy on the professional level. That's it. They'll go straight to the owner and they'll say, "I'm not playing," or "I'll sit out. I'm not doing this anymore." So that's the unique circumstance. What organization would do it outside of Las Vegas? I don't know. I could see Las Vegas being that organization to do it because it is Mark Davis and it is Brady, maybe, but outside of them, I don't see any.
But also, how do you guarantee that even gets there? Like, you hire Deion now. It's like, great, I'm going to draft my son. Let's get the team in the one spot goes, all right, 4 first-rounders, 3 first-rounders, and, 4 second-rounders.
Here's the thing. In theory, that's great, Donnie. Yeah. All they got to do is make one phone call. Hey, James Harden, how do you always get what you want?
No, different.
No, not really.
I don't think it's
so can I ask you this? How is it that in 2025, it would be crazy if a guy forced his way where to go? And, like, John Elway was playing for the Yankees and Eli Manning was going wherever he wanted. Like, the NFL is almost lucky, Donnie, that they don't have that on their hands every single year.
It's hard because you can go back to, the Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, where it sort of worked out for both teams. But somebody's going to have that one pick and understand, you really want this guy, and we're not going to cave. And what are you going to give us? Like, we'll take Roethlisberger. We'll take, Phillip Rivers in that draft, whatever it would have been. I don't think you can do that in this draft.
But I'm
going to move up from 6 to 1. They're like, good, four first rounders. No, I'm not doing it. I know you want your son. What's it going to take? How about 3 in 3 seconds?
But again, the other end of that, Donnie, is you draft someone who then refuses to play for you.
I don't think that's going to happen. And it depends on what the ownership. Let's just say Cincinnati had the number 1 overall pick. They draft Shedeur and they would sit him for 4 years. Like, they would love doing that every second to him. It does. You don't want to draft a quarterback that doesn't want to be there. But how many times have we seen that happen? Once every 20-plus years?
Listen, but Donnie, this is a rare situation. It's not apples to apples, but I'll make this comparison, right? If you were a general manager in the NBA, you would have drafted Bronny just to tell the Lakers, now, what are you going to give us for a kid who's you don't even think's worth a pick, right? You know what happened? Nobody touched him.
Yeah, but he's not that type of player. Like, you know what I mean? You're talking about your franchise quarterback that you think is going to change it, and he doesn't want to go to your team, so you're going to draft the second guy who you really didn't want. So you're drafting that number 1 guy all the time.
So that's the oddity of this, though, is we don't – and I know that, does Tennessee want Shedeur? Yes, then this gets weird. But we're also hearing – I saw a report the other day that people are like, well, Shedeur Sanders isn't a round 1 talent. Like, Cam Ward's the favorite to go first overall. Right? Okay, maybe the Giants would be like, well, we want him. I don't know. Maybe Jackson Dart is going to shoot up all these draft boards, or Jalen Milroe, whatever it might be. It is just one of those things. You're right, Lisa. I think it's only Vegas. But it only takes one. Yeah. It only takes one. And Vegas being like, look, we are a show in town like never seen before. It would be interesting. There's a lot more to get to outside of Vegas. We'll do it next here on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, back with you right here on Pro Football Today. Taking a look at the coaching carousel, some names out there that could potentially positively influence. We talk about next year's futures market, maybe negatively influence, depending on who these teams assign as their head coach. We talked a lot about Vegas. I think there'll be a lot of chatter at some point about the Jets. It feels like at the moment the Bears' job is the talk of the town, for better or for worse. They tried to get Mike McCarthy in. Dallas was like, no. That's a whole nother thing. They did get Pete Carroll in, Lisi. I'm curious what you think about that possible fit of Pete Carroll, Caleb Williams, and the Bears.
I don't think it's a bad fit because I think Pete Carroll showed that he can elevate the Seattle Seahawks without Russell Wilson. Let's not forget when Russell Wilson moved on to Denver, their win total was 5.5, and he overexceeded expectations with a back-to-back 9-win seasons. And at the end of the day, I understand that they regressed potentially from a defensive perspective, but he still cultivated young talent. He was still able to work with DK Metcalf, JSN, and you saw Kenneth Walker, and get the most out of those players from an offensive perspective. 9-8 wasn't bad in Seattle. McDonald hasn't wowed them this year, right? 10-win football team. But look at what he did with those players. I don't think it would be a bad fit with Caleb Williams. He's a good game planner. Is he elite? Is he sort of regressing maybe at the end of his career? Potentially, but he still has a love for football and is still a great X's and O's coach. I put it this way. He is an upgrade from Eberflus in a big capacity, and that staff, you can't go wrong, in my opinion, if you're going to go to Pete Carroll.
I love the interview. I would absolutely hate the hire. Say, what does that mean? That doesn't make sense. When you're an organization like the Chicago Bears that are rudderless up top, when you fall into an ownership position, like you just hand your daughter over the football team, then you hand it over to your son, this is what you get. And I don't mind that they're interviewing 30 or 40 people for that head coaching job, because they should just be asking winning coaches in the past, we suck here. What can we actually do with this organization? How do you structure things? So I love that Pete Carroll actually got the interview. They're not going to hire him, but just ask him, you've won before. We never win a damn thing around here. What can we help out with? So for me, I want young, up-and-coming, fantastic offensive talent to go along with Caleb Williams. But if you're going to ask me about all these interviews like it doesn't make sense, I love the interview. The guy's won before. Ask him questions like, how do you win? We can't.
Yeah, my current thing with the Bears is just that Matt Eberflus decision may haunt them forever. Like, they really would have had
the best job in sports was up in the air last year. With every candidate would have beat their door down. Like Eberflus and you know what, Waldron's going to fix it. You're so right about that.
They made the job less attractive. It's a candidate pool that we've heard, Adam Kaplan tell us, not as desirable as last year's crop. It's just Maybe they'll get it right, but it's an uphill battle that didn't need to be. I was going through these, and I stumbled across something that I now feel way too passionate about, and I'm going to get disappointed if it doesn't go how I think it should. The New Orleans Saints should give Joe Brady, the Bills' offensive coordinator, a 10-year contract and tell him, hey, worry about nothing. We don't need you to draft a quarterback this year. You don't like him next year? Don't care. You want a part ownership stake? It is all yours. A young offensive mind who at LSU lit the entire game on fire with Joe Burrow, a coordinator who comes into Buffalo, gets them playing great. All of a sudden, Josh Allen forgets how to throw interceptions. I didn't know that was possible. The talent around Josh, not incredible either. And if by chance we ever get a little bit more NBA-ification of the NFL, right? And some guys don't like their situation and they go, trade request? I'd like my head coach to be the only guy who has legitimate ties to both Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. Because as far as trade requests of the great players in this league goes, Pat will never make one, and Lamar got paid. But maybe Joe Burrow will be tired of playing for Zach Taylor, and maybe Josh Allen will miss Joe Brady some point. I would give him a decade-long contract, Lisi, and never think twice about it.
You're Mike Ditka with the Ricky Williams. That's it. Give him everything. Trade everybody. Give Joe Brady.
Aunt Bailey.
It's not a bad – I agree with you. Joe Brady, I believe, is a great fit in terms of New Orleans. Not a lot of elite talent. Is Chris Olave going to be there? Alvin Kamara at the end of his career in terms of, his durability. You have no quarterback outside of potentially – I want to say Spencer Rattler. I mean,
Hayner?
if you could.
Come on now.
Hayner, come on. He's gutless. Anyway, it's not a bad look, but they won't do that, I don't feel. I don't know. Mickey Loomis and that organization, too, they need to get rid of Mickey Loomis as GM. Get
GM
rid of
the
Mickey.
Pelicans, too? Like, what's that guy doing?
Get rid of Mickey in terms of, they're cap-strapped, and they have no identity as an organization right now. So, again, I think it's a great fit. Joe Brady did a fantastic job elevating, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, one of the best college offenses that we have ever seen potentially in the history of college football.
Yeah.
They had an identity. They chucked it all over the yard. I will say in Carolina, with Matt Rule, potentially not a good fit, but he's shown now he's bounced back in a big way. I think he's deserving of a head coaching job, but I just don't think New Orleans will do it. They're another loser organization.
Look, 35 years old, and we're at this point in the NFL where it used to be like, hey, I need to get a head coaching job because they make the most money. Assistants are making a lot, and specifically if you are recognized as one of the best coordinators and you don't want to get taken to another organization because your head coach is a defensive type of guy or maybe not the best offensive guy, you're seeing that play out in Detroit, which I'm sure we'll get to Ben Johnson. But with Joe Brady, sitting there like, I got Josh Allen in his prime. I could stay here at $3, $4, $5, $6 million a year for the next 5 years. And why do I have to pick a spot like the New Orleans Saints to go to? I want to pick a primo spot out here, which is enough to get me away, which I think is what Ben Johnson is looking at. Like last year, 3 teams were like, you get whatever you want in the blank check. He's like, I got an awesome organization. I'm making good money. Maybe I don't think I'm ready to be a head coach yet. I'm going to stick it out. So that's what I think might have going in Joe Brady. Say, why didn't you get a head coaching job? Maybe he just doesn't want to leave at this point.
But that is why, Donnie, because I think that is valid.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious.
10 years.
10-year deal. Here's the other thing. Like, we look around. We probably fire coaches way too early.
Oh, yeah.
Like, ultimately, guys should get some time to figure some things out. He's 35. Like, Lisi, all
you
I'm
don't
saying,
want the guy learning on
You're going
the
to have a
job,
big red
though.
run.
Why?
You have a big red run.
Lisi, where are the Saints going? They have no cap space, no quarterback. Like, hey, and that's why I'm saying, hey, Joe, come on in and guys, also take your time. We got
it's
all
all right.
the time
4
in
and
the world.
13 every
And
year.
Pat Swilling.
I don't need you to be 500
Sam
until
Mills.
year 6.
Bobby
Year
Hebert.
6. We'll look for
Come on.
9 wins. Sports
Craig
Millions pick
Ironhead
them next.
Hayward.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Back right here on SportsGrid, it is Pro Football Today, and it is time for the Sports Millions Pick'em. So many options here for the NFL postseason, but I figured we had the opportunity to do something that we've done on the desk quite a few times and maybe elevate it a little bit since it is the postseason. What you can do over on Sports Millions Pick'em is grab four guys, put them together. We're talking 11X. What I'm referring to is all of our quarterbacks higher than their rushing number. Let's just take a look at where they settle up at the moment. We have Lamar Jackson, of course, at the top marker, higher than 48.5 rushing yards. Lamar averages, by the way, a little over 80 rushing yards per game in his postseason career. On the other side of the field is Russell Wilson, higher than 15.5 rushing yards. Russ, higher than this number in 3 straight games to close out the regular season. You then go to game number 1, Stroud versus Herbert. CJ, not the best athlete at the quarterback position, but again, it's the playoffs. Higher than 13.5 rush yards. Feels like it should be in reach, especially because this team is limited weapon-wise, so you might have to make a couple of extra moves to pick up the sticks. And then lastly, Justin Herbert, who's had himself a pretty strong rushing season all in all, a career high this year at 306 yards. Higher for Justin Herbert as well on his rushing total. That number, again, around 19.5, I do believe. Now, when we take these 4 quarterbacks here, Donnie, for Justin Herbert, there you see 19.5 rushing yards. If you had to take one higher than their number, who would it be?
It's, you're buying a little bit lower here at this point, but it would be Russell Wilson for me. I would go higher on that. And it's not because I don't think Lamar Jackson has wheels, Herbert has wheels, Stroud can get out of the pocket. I'm just looking at a game plan where you're looking at 2 teams that know each other, 2 good pass rushes. Russell Wilson has to make some plays with his feet. So for me, you're not even looking at 35.5, 40 yards. You're basically saying, hey, Russ, get 20 yards on the ground to keep the sticks moving, I like that higher.
Yeah, he did it last time they played in Baltimore in terms of the 17-point loss. We talk about 27 yards on the ground on about 4 carries. I would take a shot on C.J. Stroud. Again, I believe this is a bounce back for C.J. Stroud. Has a lower number, but I still think, again, with the pressure, them being underdogs in terms of the matchup, I think he can break contain, especially if L.A. plays man-to-man coverage and he has running lanes. Why are you laughing at me?
You are amazing. And look, I put them all in there. It's just like, of course you went to the guy.
Well, actually, to be honest,
who does it?
I was going to go to Russell Wilson, and he took
guy.
it. So I gave somebody else.
Yeah, no, you could double up if you like.
I could have, but that's why I said he did it in terms of the last matchup. But again, I still believe Stroud, again, will try to take this game on his shoulders because they haven't looked good down the stretch, even though we looked good last week against Tennessee on one drive.
Yeah.
The 2 previous games, especially at home, he put up 2 points against Baltimore on Christmas.
So, look, I do this partly because we've talked about, hey, let's bring all the quarterbacks rushing numbers on this desk many a times, right? You got 11X on Sports Millions, pick 'em. That's awesome. It is also just something that I believe we all subscribe to. Maybe it's just fact. Quarterbacks run more the bigger the game is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that applies to nobody more than Lamar Jackson. I'm actually fascinated by his 48.5 number because that number is not factoring in its playoff football even a little, Donnie. Just last year, opening game for Lamar, a smooth 11 for 100. Game number 2 against KC, 8 for 54, and we all felt he didn't run enough in that game. Again, averages over 80 yards per game on the ground. Lamar always has the ability to have a big game. They're just more likely when the postseason starts.
Absolutely. And sometimes you look at the Lamar Jackson and the way you do college quarterbacks, like, man, I just wish he would just drop back 1, 2, 3 and then run because nobody can stop the guy. And he's going to do that today. I do believe he gets into the 50s, 60s today and certainly goes over.
Did it last week against Cleveland, especially in the first half.
He sure did. He's actually, for his last 5 games, we've seen him 60 plus. Those are your Sports Millions Pick'em options. We're going to talk about your postseason leaders next on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Live right here, Pro Football Today, with a classic. Playoff leaders, passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards. These conversations are always fun, and they tie into who you feel can go the furthest. Obviously, the kind of game that you play with this is the fact that the 1 seeds are favored to go to the Super Bowl. But if they do, they will play as many games as the team they would eliminate in the conference championship game. That is why, right now, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are in front of a Pat Mahomes, or why even a Sam Darnold is in front of a Jared Goff. So let's just stick with the quarterbacks for now. When you look at this market, Donnie, playoff leader passing yards, whose number stands out to you the most?
I mean, look, Josh Allen, the way he's going to get to a Super Bowl, is it really behind his arm, or is it a mix of let's run the football, let's have him run the football, let's make some timely plays? Lamar Jackson, I've been screaming about this since last year when they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. You don't have to throw the football 35 to 40 times a game, but he is going to get that maximum number of games played. Sam Darnold at a 6-to-1 price here, where you're saying, you know what? If this team makes a deep run, it's probably going to be on his arm as opposed to Aaron Jones in the backfield. Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, as we talked about here, looking at them on the bye. For me, it might be just so simple to say, if you think a team can make a run and make a difference, maybe it would be Sam Darnold at the 6-to-1. Because I do think now at a neutral site, they're going to beat the Rams, and he's probably going to throw for 275 plus in that game. Then you get to the next weekend. Look who he's going up against, a Detroit team, where you know you're going to have to throw the football to beat that team. And if you do, he's probably not throwing for less than 225 in that game. You're looking for 275 plus and multiple touchdowns. Then it brings up you got to beat the Eagles. I probably, even though I'm saying the pathway is still hard for the Vikings, but that price point and how they're going to win football games might make some sense to me.
Yeah, it's good value at 6-to-1 with Sam Darnold. I actually like L.A., so I wouldn't go that route. I would go the second tier. I would take a shot on Jared Goff, Pat Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. And I think Jalen Hurts has good value, assuming that they get by Green Bay tomorrow. 4.5-point home favorite, even though they want to run the football with Saquon Barkley. I believe that if Philly gets through Green Bay, they're going to be in the NFC Championship game. So you're going to get the extra game, to catch up on some of the other guys. At plus 850, I think it's pretty good value. They're going to have to throw, I believe, especially tomorrow. I believe Philly. I think Green Bay will take away Saquon to some capacity. So even if, you're talking about 225 maybe for Hurts tomorrow, I still think he could break out in the other two games. So plus 850 for me is good value.
So that Kurtz is an interesting one. There's something within my Sell Me Something we'll get to later where I think it's like a tricky way to bet a team to win a conference. But Philly is plus 320 to win the conference. You're getting 850 for him. Again, typically the goal would be to get a 4-game player in any of these markets, right? So I'll go to you, Donnie. If I tell you, hey, the Eagles make the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But do you think that Hurts in 4 games will still throw for enough yardage for you to be happy about that ticket at plus 850?
Yeah, no, and it should make sense because you're looking at styles that make points, as Joe says. We might get, I don't want to say a lower-scoring game tomorrow, but you got 2 really good running backs, and the MO of the Philadelphia Eagles is make sure Saquon gets the football, but then you're trying to line them up on who they might play in that second round and how much you can pass, and even, quite frankly, in the NFC title game. I'm going to tell you this right now. You get to an NFC title game, and it's the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, yeah, the Eagles won. Saquon had a good game, but Jalen Hurts had 195 passing? No, like Jalen Hurts probably going to throw for 3 bills in that game. And then you're saying, okay, when you get to the Super Bowl, what happens if it is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? Because he's played well in the past before. It's not a bad price, but I was just trying to take a look at saying, what's the price point and what do I think the game plans would be? Because to me, even though the Eagles have sensational offensive line, wide receivers, and tight ends, the MO is let's make sure that guy in the backfield gets 20 to 25 carries. I just don't see that with a team like Minnesota. Like Minnesota's going to win on Kevin O'Connell's offense, absolutely rolling, and Justin Jefferson and Addison having big games for me.
Yeah, I think the Hurts thing is odd because at plus 850, you compare it to the conference number, it's tempting.
Yeah.
I think that Jalen could have a 300-yard game, but I also think the world where he does finish one of those games with a $140 would not be surprising.
And they can still win.
He threw for 118 yards against Baltimore in that victory, right?
Yep.
Which is, I think, kind of what led to them be like, where's it throwing the ball? AJ losing his mind and things of that nature. I think the most, you talk about value, right? To me is Herbert at 17 to 1. That is a very surprising number, but considering They are booked as favorites this round of a field goal. Like, I don't think Darnold's I don't think he's good value. You could win the ticket.
Right.
He's a lesser favorite than Herbert. And I don't know what the pathway for Darnold is to be favored in round number 2.
Right.
I'm trying to. I guess it would be if Philly loses.
Yeah.
Minnesota would be a slight favorite in Tampa, and then they would be a favorite if they hosted Washington. But Herbert is a favorite in this round of a tick of a bigger margin. And I don't think Herbert's number, if they win and play Kansas City, is going to be, in terms of a spread, I mean, the number's going to be, 3.5?
Right.
Maybe 4? Like,
right.
It's not going to be out of bounds. At 17-1, I'm surprised at how long the Justin Herbert number is.
No, it is. But think about the road and, potentially a matchup in Arrowhead if they get there. I mean, that's the MO was a lower scoring game, 16-14 last time they played, or 19-17. I'll take a different approach. Baker at 10-1. Now, I do believe Washington steps up. 50.5 is the total. But you're talking about a guy and a team that beat Detroit and beat Philly this year.
Yeah.
Right? Now, granted, I understand, that Philly team was a little banged up when they played, but they pushed tempo as well as anybody. And Baker is as hot as anybody in terms of, throwing the football. So, again, they're going to throw it, if they face off against Detroit. They're going to have to throw it against Philly, and he had success already. So why not back him at 10-1 as that lottery type of ticket, assuming they get through Washington?
Would you rather, because we can bring this into the receiving numbers, Baker at 10 or yardage, or Mike Evans, who's currently 9-1 for receiving?
I love Mike Evans, but again, a world where he starts throwing Payne Durham and
Jalen McMillan,
Cade Otton, and all of a sudden Cade Otton gets 12 targets for $144 like he did last year against the Eagles. You'll be pulling your hair. I'd rather go the Baker route because it's just safer to me.
Is there in the receiving market, Donnie, A.J. Brown the favorite, which is fascinating, at plus 440. I think that speaks a lot to the Hurts expectations that he's 850, A.J.'s the favorite here, Jefferson, Puka, Amon-Ra, Collins. I mean, you got to go a ways down. The first Baltimore guy, Zay Flowers, which is outrageous when you consider we know he's not playing this week, and I don't even know if he's playing next week, assuming they get there. Yeah. In the receiving market, Donnie, is someone jumping off the page?
Again, it would be a correlation if I think, Sam Darnold is having big days. Well, I'm not like, hey, that's
so would you rather Jefferson at 650 compared to Darnold at 6?
Probably would make more sense in that fashion. But if I am taking a shot there, I'm glad you brought up Zay Flowers because Rashad Bateman's on that team. Like, why don't you just supplant the wide receiver? No. 21-1 there. Mark Andrews. Like, is there any world where – when we talk about this, we always think about like delusions of grandeur, like, it's 150 yards every game you have to win this. That's not the case here. You have to 60 yards, 70 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards. That might be good enough to do that. And if Mark Andrews is that top guy who's getting 4 catches for 60 yards in that range or 5 catches for 65 yards, why not? Because they get the 4 games.
Yeah, 11 receiving touchdowns since, I believe, week 6, Andrews.
Every week he scores.
Right? Yeah. So I'm taking 2 deep shots, but they're with great teams. Devontae at 20-1, Jamison Williams 25-1. We talk about explosiveness. I'm around St. Brown is there at 8-1, but Jamison Williams is the home run hitter.
I know, but I just think over the course of a run.
I know.
Like,
I'm just saying, though, for receiving, it's not a bad look. And then you want to take a shot on Shakir. If you believe Josh Allen, who are you going to go to?
So the number that's most interesting to me is a very familiar name, though a team I'm trying not to invest into, but Travis Kelce at 28-1 is a heck of a number. We'll talk more about that, the running backs, some postseason touchdown leaders, all next. We're live right here on Pro Football Today.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Back right here. It is Pro Football Today. And we're taking a look at some of the postseason leader markets. We went to the break, and I mentioned Travis Kelce potentially lead the postseason in receiving yards, which he has actually done the last two postseasons. If you go back to last year's playoffs, though, you'll notice that it was Mahomes for passing. It was Kelce for receiving. Rashee Rice finished third. Pacheco led in rushing. That is the value if you can get a four-game player. The attraction to me on the Kelce number, this is a guy who last year, regular season to postseason, 23.2 more yards per game. We could potentially see that uptick. There is no Rashee Rice. I know Worthy's coming on. I know Hollywood's there. But Kelce is still typically the postseason guy. And I'm not super interested in betting Kansas City. 28-1.
Yeah.
This is a team that's, 2-1 to make the Super Bowl. That is a very interesting number to me. When we get to the running backs here, I mean, you have a clear top two. The two all year long. It's Saquon Barkley. It's Derrick Henry. Is that where your eye would go, Donnie?
Yes, your eye would go there. But you know what we're going to sprinkle on just to try to have some fun with this? How about Lamar Jackson at 40-1 to lead the playoffs in rushing? How about Jalen Hurts 150-1? So if you're saying to yourself, yes, I like Saquon at 195, why not sprinkle a little bit on Hurts? Because if he wins that, they're probably in the Super Bowl. You don't want to say injuries and what can happen, but we've seen quarterback. Who's to say today, like, you just have a playoff game and Lamar Jackson rolls out of the pocket on his own 20-yard line and runs for 80 yards.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm not saying they can win, but it's a nice little insurance policy with a couple shekels that you can place on either one of those guys. And if it comes up aces at 150-1, crazy.
Yeah, great value. I'll take it a step further. You talk about running quarterbacks. How about Josh Allen, 33-1?
Yeah.
I believe Bills will be in the AFC Championship. I like the way they're running the football. James Cook has good value at plus 950. I'll give you my flyer, my lottery ticket, and it's going to go, again, it has to go if they win tomorrow. But Josh Jacobs, when you look at 25-1.
More or less.
I know, goes against the desk. I know that. I like them plus the 4.5, but let me just say this. Josh Jacobs, how he's been such an integral part of that offense and knowing how they want to run the football, if somehow, some way, they do pick up the victory on the road. You're getting one of the best running backs at 25-1. I'm not saying he's right on the level of Saquon and Derrick, but he's going to be getting the ball just as much.
Yeah, I think the attraction there for me on the Jacobs number, that's a team that's 10-1 to win the conference. If they win that conference, you're going to get 4 games out of Jacobs. That certainly would be a very tempting number. Whether I think that happens is a different conversation. Right. I will say for me, this is the one market that I'm not as tempted in. if Saquon or Derrick Henry, if it's not one of them, it means neither guy even made the conference title game, which is already a bit of a mountain to climb there. The Gibbs angle, I think the Gibbs number is atrocious.
Do you?
Montgomery's coming back.
Yes, correct.
And the Lions are insane. Listen, I've been banging this drum since I put money on Gibbs last year to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. They drafted Gibbs. They know how good he is, but Dan Campbell's a gimmick. So we've seen what Jahmyr Gibbs looked like as the bell cow now the past 2 weeks. He's one of the best running backs in football. Yeah, but we love David Montgomery's stuff. Okay, cool. So how about David Montgomery's going to grab 10, 12 carries off of Gibbs' plate?
He will.
That's a 7-1 at a max 3-game player. It's an atrocious number.
It is a bad number.
That number is
Are
only.
we sure that Montgomery, doesn't just get goal line opportunities?
So if his leg got amputated and he sewed it back on himself, he would get 10 carries from Dan Campbell and get the first look at the touchdowns.
I guess he's blue collar.
But listen, to the point, right? The playoff rushing touchdown leader, right? Gibbs 850, Montgomery 10-1.
Yeah.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
The books are like, now listen, right inside the belly there. The most tempting number in that market to me is it is a foolish wager, but it is Saquon at 7-1. Jalen Hurts, it's interesting, Donnie. In this market, it's as if the books know Hurts is the guy who scores the touchdown. But when you go to the anytime touchdown scorer market for, say, tomorrow, Saquon has a much heavier number. At 7-1, he is a tempting wager for me here.
Yes, and also if you're led to believe that, you take a look at the concussion scenarios for Hurts, maybe no, they're going to push you through. Kenny Pickett had like 19 broken ribs. Like, push this man into the end zone. It doesn't matter. This is what we do. But it is intriguing to see because obviously they're not going to give the ball to Saquon at the 1, but Saquon Barkley's hitting home runs, which include from 15 to 30 to 50 yards out, is a possibility there. So I like that look. I put it this way. I'd still rather bank on Saquon at 7-1 than Hurts at plus 650 because I do still think outside of the tush pushes, he's probably going to score more touchdowns than Jalen Hurts is.
Yeah, but we're not. You know what?
Like they might start the tush push at the 5 now. First of all at the 5.
Here's the thing. Everything we just said, delete that. We don't agree anymore. I'm telling you, Don, we know Hurts is going to score. Like, you're probably better off just betting Hurts and Josh Allen. Because now that the playoffs are here, Josh Allen's going to be like James Cook, that was fun. Congrats for all your history. Beat it. I'm running these in now.
Well, then what about Lamar at 19-1 for most rushes?
He doesn't score as much as everybody
say
thinks.
that, yeah, I know, but then all of a sudden, come playoff time, is RPO goal line. This is it. No Derrick Henry. It'll be the Lamar Jackson show. 19-1?
Maybe.
If Josh is 7-1.
Josh scores way more than him. Like, there's a big gap. I don't mean you specifically.
No,
I
know.
The general
like
you.
Like Josh Allen feels like he's the goal line back on Buffalo when you know the goal line back at Baltimore is always going to be Derrick Henry. And the same thing, the goal line back in Philadelphia is Jalen Hurts. Not supposed to be that way, but it is.
Do we believe in anybody else on this list?
Can I just make one just for people? Sure. Last 2 seasons, Lamar Jackson, if you had to guess, how many rushing touchdowns?
In the playoffs?
No. Regular. I know it's but just guess. The regular season, how many rushing touchdowns? 33 games. 2 years.
8.
Okay. 9. Good guess, right? Josh Allen, 34 games. Last 2 seasons, regular season.
17.
27.
All right.
20.
And he caught a touchdown pass.
Say, but that, he did also, too, which is obviously a crazy thing. I'll quickly pull up Jalen's, just again to give kind of people that ballpark
12,
number
I'll
there.
Say. 12.
2 years?
More.
Oh, 2 years.
Last 2 years.
26.
16.
26.
Yeah, 29.
Ooh.
The more I think about it, Jalen Hurts should be picked.
Now, hold on. Who's this Ray Davis at 100-1, Joe? Come on now. Can we buy it?
Sweet baby Ray.
RB's one.
Oof.
RB1. I will say, like the Pacheco, Kareem Hunt numbers, I wouldn't bet him with your money. I can't figure out that KC
job now. Impressive start.
Joe Mixon,
where is
29-1.
You think if I send him an email, I can get Wentz postseason passing yards
Probably
later?
Could, yep.
Isn't Mahomes hobbled?
You still want to see it happen in the playoffs.
Come on, listen.
The savior.
Listen, it would be a beautiful moment.
Got blown out.
It wasn't his fault. Sunday Morning Crunch next on a Saturday.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Pro football today. We're back here on a Saturday morning. Looking for a little Sunday morning. Oh, it's just Saturday. That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Saturday. By the way, real quick, when you in high school, warming up before a game that rained, coach used to get angry, said you still had to stretch like in the grass, mess up your uniform. Do you have an issue with that as an offensive lineman?
No.
Couldn't stand it. How about you?
I don't even know what you're... I mean,
you stretch before the game on the field and it's raining. You got to lay okay, get down and stretch like your hamstring out. Like I never want to get down. No.
I'm trying to say the program was built on having no swag. Like that's what
you guys were rolling around in the mud.
It was, but listen, I'll be honest, like Donnie, you don't get this way by mistake. Like when they're like, listen, stretch. I was like, dang, I'm gonna get dirty. It was like, I gotta stretch. Come on now.
Can't pull fat.
Like
brother,
touch. They're like touch your toes. I'm like, I've been trying for years. Like it wasn't working.
Man.
All right, Saturday morning crunch. Why don't you hit it then, huh?
Out to lunch. Surprised it doesn't say like lunch behind there instead of crunch.
What am I? This is why I need extra room. Come on, Lisa. What do you say you make it happen here? Crunch.
All right, so let's start. We'll start in the late game. We talk about Pittsburgh losing 4 straight. No offensive identity. Total is set at 43.5. Russell Wilson is absolutely atrocious. I'm on Najee Harris.
What is this? Sell me something?
No, I'm on Najee Harris tonight. I think they need to run the football again. I think they go a little conservative in terms of this matchup. 39.5, I think is a light number. Minus 113. What? You don't like it?
You told me before the show started you want to see him break tendency. Now you just told me that you want them to run the football.
But still, that doesn't mean 39.5 yards.
Me something right now.
No, you asked me, how does Pittsburgh win this game? I said they have to break tendency, and Russell Wilson needs to step up. But 39.5.
He gets it.
For Najee Harris? I mean, if he doesn't get that, they're going to get blown out in terms of this matchup. The early game is my favorite game of the day. Now, it does say Nico Collins. It's Collins on this, so I don't know. I'm looking at this. Nico Collins over. I'm looking at the rundown creator here.
Huh?
Look at here.
Wait,
look.
Just go ahead.
All right, Nico Collins. I don't have my glasses on, so Nico Collins over the 83.5. I think he steps up 100-plus receiving yards, 87.5 today. I think he breaks out. And then give me C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud is averaged over the last 5 weeks, only 209 passing yards per game. I think he breaks. It is. I'm going contrarian. I think he goes
Stroud or C.J. Stroud out there.
Two and a quarter, 250. You know why? I'll tell you why. I was driving and they asked for my crunch, so I didn't actually write them down.
Yeah.
But then when I looked at the rundown creator, I said Nico Collins.
I like that.
Oh my
No,
God!
so I wasn't sure if it was up on the graphic.
Right. Donnie, go.
You do understand that, right?
I do. I like your picks, though. Even more the pronunciation of some of the players there, which is helpful in that. So let's go to my Saturday morning crunch at this point. Lamar Jackson. I'm a man of the people here. I got under 217.5, and I have a ticket in my back pocket at 220. But I understand that. I bet that early in the week. It's not what it is today. So we're going to go ahead and fire on that. Today, you're going to need that ground game, which is what I want to see for the Baltimore Ravens. You'll be able to throw multiple touchdown passes and get your yards, but Lamar stays under 217.5. Russell Wilson over 8.5 as his longest rush today. You must be able to break containment out of that pocket and move the sticks yourself. He's going to get a 10-yard rush. And also, how about this? The Pittsburgh Steelers as a team, which includes Justin Fields, just to get one rushing touchdown today at -120. If I could bet it, I would. Yesterday, I got robbed and a chance on the goal line. Today, I won Fields.
There's no Justin Fields.
We don't have any Fields touchdowns.
Anytime touchdown.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Oh, you're
probably
local.
have
Where's
two
the locals?
tonight.
The locals got to have it somewhere.
Probably have two tonight.
Yeah.
Can't bet it. He scores, hits pay dirt, not once but twice. 40-1. Why are you laughing? You got the giggles.
Because, well, I mean, for countless reasons. This segment has really devolved into
Tell me something.
full chaos. Donnie
What happens with two games?
Donnie
There's 12
slipped
games
something
out
in,
here. Yeah.
and then I have about 4 seconds to rip through my
the way
pick.
it should be.
It is.
All right, don't worry about it. We'll do Stroud over the 1.5 passing touchdowns at +154. Stroud's always been a better quarterback at home against a defense who has allowed 6 of the last 8 opposing quarterbacks to have multiple passing touchdowns. I will take a game special on Joe Mixon, 5 yards each quarter at -115. I wanted to find a way to back Joe Mixon within this game. At -115, I think the Texans can win. I think it's a close game either way. I think it's a nice little wager. Instead of playing him for 20 carries or 80 yards. And then Lamar Jackson, longest rush, 15.5. 5-1 in his postseason career on this number. The one loss, he had a long run of 15 in that game. 7-3 against playoff teams this season on that number as well. Lamar will scramble today. We keep moving here with that all-pro team next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.